Unit 5, Life in the New Republic, Chapter 14, Lesson 2, Farming and Ranching. What types of farming were practiced in the Republic of Texas? Terms to know: consist, to be formed, made up, or composed of. Subsistence crop, a crop grown to be used on the farm where it was raised. Supplement, to add something to a quantity or effort. Cash crop, a crop grown for the purpose of being sold. Squatter, a person who settles on or uses land that does not belong to him or her. It's a picture of a sugarcane field. Sheep shearing. Texan ranches. African American Texas population in 1840. Farms and plantations. Guiding question: what types of farming were practiced in the Republic of Texas? In the Republic of Texas, agriculture was a major part of the economy. Agriculture at the time was based on small family farms. Most of these farms did not rely on enslaved African Americans. Farmers tried to grow, raise, hunt, gather, and make whatever they needed to survive. A basic family farm consisted or was made up of about 120 to 160 acres. Most of it was used to grow subsistence crops to feed the family. Main subsistence crops included corn, sweet potatoes, and a variety of vegetables. Corn was a major food for Texans. They used corn to make cornbread, tortillas, and hominy. Farmers also fed corn to their animals to supplement or add to the grasses they grazed on. Small farmers usually set aside a few acres for cash crops. Cotton was the most common cash crop. Money made from the sale of a cash crop was used to buy things farmers could not make themselves, such as a plow. Small farmers also raised livestock. They often allowed cattle and hogs to roam free in unfenced pasture where they would forage or search for food. On big farms or plantations, owners grew large amounts of cash crops such as cotton and sugarcane. Cotton had a long history in Texas. Puebloan people had raised cotton. Early Spanish colonists also grew cotton. Many Anglo-Americans who came to Texas in the 1820s and 1830s were from the South. They were familiar with growing cotton and did so in Texas. Enslaved labor was common across the South, and these settlers greatly expanded slavery in Texas. Plantation owners typically relied on enslaved African Americans to grow and harvest the crops. Most cotton plantations in Texas were located along the Colorado, Brazos, and Trinity rivers. Sugarcane was the second largest cash crop in the Republic. Farmers in Austin's colony had raised sugarcane in the 1820s, and its production increased throughout the 1830s. In the 1840s, when the cotton crop on the coast was ruined by pest and bad weather, farmers there turned to sugarcane. Sugarcane production increased dramatically after that. Improved farming and production methods led to large-scale sugarcane farming in the 1840s. The main sugar-producing region was Brazoria County. Ranching. Guiding question: why did ranching develop in Texas? Ranching in Texas began with the Spanish. They brought cattle, horses, sheep, and other livestock to their colony. Spanish cattle ranchers influenced Anglo-American ranchers in many ways. Anglo-American ranchers copied Spanish saddles and equipment and herding and roping methods. From 1762 to 1800, when Spain controlled Louisiana, Texan ranchers drove their herds to New Orleans to sell. This practice began the Texas cattle drives. Many Anglo-Americans who came to Texas to farm turned to cattle ranching instead. Land grants and plentiful grass made ranching an attractive alternative to farming. By the time of the Republic, cattle ranching was an important industry. Beef and hides could be sold for cash to farmers and townspeople. They were also bartered for food, clothing, and other goods. A breed of cattle known as the Texas Longhorn became popular at this time. It was a hardy breed that could survive long drives and resist many diseases. The Spanish also introduced sheep and goat ranching to Texas. The climate was especially good for raising these animals. At first, sheep and goats were raised mainly for their meat. Later, large sheep ranches in Spanish Texas declined, but the industry revived during the Republic. American settlers brought new breeds to produce wool, which was a valuable good sought by U.S. textile mills. Some livestock farmers were squatters. They grazed their herds on lands they did not own and moved on to new grazing land as needed. Squatters benefited Texas by helping settle unclaimed land. They also became successful tax-paying ranchers. Many important ranchers were Tejanos, such as Maria Cavillo, who owned and operated a goat ranch. Trevino Circle T Ranch was founded by Bartolomé de Lizaradas y Cuellar, who raised cattle, goats, and sheep. This ranch existed from the time of Spanish rule through the Republic and well into the 1900s. The Bustamante Ranch grew peanuts in addition to raising sheep, goats, and cattle. Slavery in the Republic. Guiding question. What was the relationship between slavery and agriculture in Texas? In 1836, about 5,000 enslaved African Americans lived in Texas. By 1845, their numbers had increased to about 30,000. Many of them arrived with slaveholder immigrants from the southern United States. Texas plantation owners also purchased enslaved workers. By 1861, about 1 in 4 Texas families held slaves. Producing large amounts of cash crops relied on enslaved workers. It also built the Texas economy. In the 1850s, there was a 600% increase in cotton production. However, an economy based on slave labor may have kept Texas from developing more modern industries. Most enslaved African Americans in the Republic worked on cotton plantations, in sugarcane fields, and on farms. While many adults did field work, some handled livestock or worked as house servants. Some were skilled workers such as blacksmiths, carpenters, and masons. A small number worked in towns as house servants or mechanics, or they were hired out as day laborers. Enslaved people worked without pay. They had to live with the knowledge that a family member could be sold at any time. They often suffered from physical and emotional abuse and were denied basic human rights. Enslaved people were provided with food, clothing, and shelter, but little else. They ate mostly corn and pork and perhaps vegetables and wild game or fish. They often lived in small, dirt floor cabins and had little medical care. Enslaved workers tried to maintain a family and social life. Religion and music were extremely important and brought relief from their hard lives.